They painted my fence bright pink without asking. But when I caught them on camera, I turned their mistake into a viral sensation that exposed their shady HOA tactics. Stick around to see how I took them down and got justice. If you love drama-filled HOA stories, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next chapter of this wild ride. Let's dive into the chaos. The morning sun cast a soft glow over the quiet suburban neighborhood, where neatly trimmed lawns and cookie-cutter houses lined the streets.
We have a landslide victory.
In one of those homes,
I'm here
a
about
modest two-story with a small garden, lived Sarah, a single mother who had moved to the community seeking a peaceful life for herself and her young daughter. The neighborhood, governed by the stringent Willow Creek Homeowners Association, promised order and uniformity. But Sarah was about to discover just how far the HOA would go to enforce its rules. It all began on a crisp Saturday morning when Sarah stepped outside to water her roses. Her eyes widened in disbelief as she noticed her backyard fence, once a tasteful cedar brown, now sported a garish neon pink hue. The paint was still wet, dripping in uneven streaks, and the smell of fresh paint hung heavy in the air. Confusion turned to frustration as she realized no one had asked her permission or even notified her of this change. The fence, which she had painstakingly saved up to install just a year ago, was her property, not the HOA's. She stormed back inside, her mind racing. Who could have done this? Why would they choose such an outrageous color? Determined to get answers, Sarah grabbed her phone and began recording the fence, capturing every angle of the bright pink monstrosity. As she filmed, she noticed a small logo stenciled near the base of the fence, a mark of the HOA's approved contractor. Her blood boiled. The HOA had done this without so much as a courtesy email. Sarah's first instinct was to call the HOA president, Karen Whitaker, a woman known for her iron grip on the neighborhood's aesthetics. But as she dialed, she hesitated. Karen was notorious for dismissing complaints with a condescending smile, and Sarah knew a phone call wouldn't get her anywhere. Instead, she decided to document everything. She walked around her property, filming the fence from every side, zooming in on the shoddy paint job and the HOA's logo. By the time she finished, her phone was buzzing with notifications from the neighborhood's online forum, where residents were already gossiping about the pink fence fiasco. Some laughed, others speculated, but no one seemed to know why it had happened. Sarah's frustration grew as she read through the comments, realizing the HOA hadn't just targeted her. Other neighbors had noticed random changes to their properties too, like repainted mailboxes or trimmed hedges without consent. The HOA's overreach was becoming a pattern, but Sarah's fence was the most blatant violation yet. She uploaded her video to the forum, expecting a few sympathetic replies. Within hours, it had exploded, with dozens of neighbors sharing their own HOA horror stories. By evening, the video had spread beyond the neighborhood, racking up thousands of views on social media. Strangers online were outraged, leaving comments like, "Who paints someone's fence without asking?" "And this HOA is out of control." Sarah hadn't expected this attention, but she felt a spark of empowerment. Maybe this was her chance to hold the HOA accountable. She spent the night researching the HOA's bylaws, scouring every page for rules about property modifications. To her shock, she found a vague clause allowing the HOA to maintain community standards at their discretion, but nothing explicitly permitted painting private property without consent. Armed with this knowledge, Sarah decided to confront the HOA at their next meeting, but first she needed more evidence. She set up a small security camera in her backyard, hidden behind a birdhouse to catch any further meddling. As the days passed, the pink fence became the talk of the town, and Sarah's video continued to gain traction. Local news outlets even reached out, asking to feature her story. But Sarah wasn't ready to go public yet. She wanted to build her case. The HOA, meanwhile, remained silent, sending no apology or explanation. Sarah knew they were hoping the issue would blow over, but she wasn't about to let that happen. As the next HOA meeting approached, she prepared her questions, ready to demand answers. Little did she know the HOA was already plotting their next move, and Sarah's viral video had put a target on her back. The HOA meeting was held in the community center, a sterile room with fluorescent lights and rows of folding chairs. Sarah arrived early, her phone fully charged and her notes meticulously organized. The room filled with residents, some curious about the pink fence saga, others visibly annoyed by the HOA's recent oversteps. Karen Whitaker, the HOA president, stood at the front, her perfectly pressed blazer and tight smile exuding authority. As the meeting began, Sarah raised her hand to speak, her voice steady as she described the unauthorized painting of her fence. She held up printed screenshots of her viral video, now at over 100,000 views, and asked why the HOA had taken such drastic action without her consent. Karen's smile faltered, but she quickly regained composure, claiming the fence was painted to enhance curb appeal after an anonymous complaint about its condition. Sarah pressed further, pointing out the bylaw's ambiguity and demanding to know who authorized the work. The room buzzed with murmurs as Karen deflected, insisting the HOA had acted within its rights. Frustrated, Sarah revealed she had filed a formal complaint with the county and was considering legal action. The crowd gasped and Karen's face reddened. The meeting ended in chaos, with residents shouting questions and Karen abruptly adjourning. Back home, Sarah checked her security camera footage, hoping for more clues. To her surprise, the footage showed two men in HOA-branded vests inspecting her fence late at night, just days after her video went viral. They weren't painting this time. They were measuring the fence and taking photos, whispering to each other as if planning something. Sarah's heart raced. Were they trying to cover their tracks or planning another violation? She saved the footage and shared it online, captioning it, "The HOA is watching me now." The new video spread even faster, with comments pouring in from people across the country who had faced similar HOA nightmares. Some suggested she contact a lawyer, while others urged her to keep exposing the HOA's shady tactics. Sarah reached out to a local attorney, Mark, who specialized in property disputes. During their consultation, Mark explained that HOAs often exploited vague bylaws to assert control. But Sarah's case was strong due to the lack of written consent and the public outcry. He advised her to gather more evidence and file a small claims suit for the cost of repainting the fence. Sarah spent the next few days digging deeper, requesting HOA records through a formal letter. The HOA delayed their response, citing administrative issues, but Sarah wasn't deterred. She noticed other neighbors stepping forward with their own complaints: unauthorized tree removals, fines for minor infractions like unapproved flower pots, and even a case where a resident's mailbox was replaced with a generic one overnight. The neighborhood was growing restless, and Sarah's viral videos had ignited a rebellion. She organized a group chat with affected residents, calling themselves the Willow Creek Resistance. Together they shared stories and planned to attend the next HOA meeting as a united front. Meanwhile, Sarah's security camera caught another suspicious act: a contractor truck parked near her house at midnight, its driver unloading cans of paint. She couldn't make out the color in the dark, but the sight sent chills down her spine. Were they planning to repaint her fence again to erase evidence? Sarah saved the footage, her resolve hardening. The HOA wasn't just overstepping. They were trying to intimidate her. As the next meeting loomed, Sarah prepared to confront Karen and the board with her new evidence, unaware that the HOA was about to escalate their tactics in a way she never expected. The Willow Creek resistance grew stronger as more residents joined, fueled by Sarah's videos and their own frustrations with the HOA. Sarah spent hours compiling evidence, including emails, bylaws, and her growing collection of security footage. Her attorney, Mark, helped her draft a formal demand letter to the HOA, requesting compensation for the fence and an apology for their unauthorized actions. The letter also warned of further legal action if the HOA didn't comply. Sarah mailed it certified, ensuring Karen couldn't claim ignorance. Days later, she received a curt response from the HOA's lawyer, denying any wrongdoing and accusing Sarah of violating community standards by publicly defaming the HOA. The letter threatened fines if she didn't remove her viral videos. Sarah was stunned. This wasn't just about her fence anymore. The HOA was trying to silence her. She shared the letter online and the internet exploded with support. Hashtags like Dardiger Pink Fence Revenge and Ho Exposed trended, and Sarah's story was picked up by a national news outlet. A reporter interviewed her via video call, and the segment aired that weekend, painting the Willow Creek HOA as a cautionary tale of unchecked power. The pressure was mounting, but so was the HOA's defiance. Sarah's security camera captured yet another late-night visit from an HOA contractor, this time leaving a notice taped to her fence. The notice claimed her fence violated a new rule about approved colors and demanded she repaint it herself within 30 days or face a $1,000 fine. Sarah laughed bitterly. The HOA had painted her fence pink and now they were fining her for it. She added the notice to her evidence pile and shared it online, where it sparked another wave of outrage. The Willow Creek Resistance planned a coordinated response at the next HOA meeting, with each member bringing their own grievances. Sarah and Mark also prepared a small claims lawsuit, calculating the cost of repainting the fence and the emotional distress caused by the HOA's harassment. The night before the meeting, Sarah noticed something odd. Her mailbox, previously a sleek black design she'd chosen to match her home, had been replaced with a generic silver one. The switch was subtle, but it reeked of the HOA's tactics. She checked her camera footage and sure enough caught an HOA contractor making the swap at 2 a.m. The footage was gold, clear evidence of the HOA's ongoing violations. Sarah uploaded it immediately, and by morning it had millions of views. The neighborhood was buzzing, and even residents who had once supported the HOA began questioning its actions. At the meeting, the atmosphere was electric. Dozens of residents packed the room, many holding signs with slogans like "Stop the HOA Tyranny." Sarah presented her evidence, including the new footage, and demanded Karen's resignation. The crowd erupted in cheers, but Karen, flustered, refused to step down, claiming the HOA was protecting property values. The meeting descended into chaos, with residents shouting and Karen storming out. That night, Sarah's inbox was flooded with messages from strangers offering legal advice, donations for her lawsuit, and even tips on exposing HOA corruption. She felt a surge of hope but also unease. The HOA wasn't backing down, and their latest move suggested they were desperate. Sarah knew the fight was far from over, but she was ready to see it through, no matter the cost. The fallout from the chaotic HOA meeting sent ripples through Willow Creek. Sarah's videos had turned the neighborhood into a battleground, with residents openly defying the HOA's rules. Some painted their mailboxes in bright colors as a protest, while others planted unapproved flowers in their yards. The Willow Creek Resistance grew into a full-fledged movement, with Sarah as its reluctant leader. Her small claims lawsuit was filed, and Mark was confident they could win, especially with the mountain of evidence Sarah had gathered. But the HOA wasn't going down without a fight. Days after the meeting, Sarah received a certified letter from the HOA's lawyer, accusing her of inciting rebellion and threatening a lien on her property if she didn't pay the $1,000 fence fine. The letter also claimed her security cameras violated a new HOA rule about unauthorized surveillance. Sarah was livid. The HOA was inventing rules to retaliate. She shared the letter online, and the internet's response was swift. Crowdfunding campaigns sprang up to cover her legal fees, and a petition to dissolve the HOA gained thousands of signatures. Sarah's story had transcended her neighborhood, becoming a symbol of resistance against overreaching HOAs everywhere. Her security cameras caught more suspicious activity, an HOA board member inspecting her property line, taking notes as if preparing for another violation. Sarah began to feel like she was under siege, but she refused to back down. She and Mark amended the lawsuit to include claims of harassment and retaliation, seeking punitive damages. The local news ran another story, this time interviewing other Willow Creek residents who shared their own HOA nightmares. The pressure was mounting, and cracks began to show in the HOA's leadership. 2 board members resigned, citing personal reasons, but rumors swirled that they feared being named in Sarah's lawsuit. At the next HOA meeting, the room was packed with reporters, residents, and even a few lawyers offering pro bono support. Sarah presented her updated evidence, including the latest footage and the threatening letter. The crowd booed as Karen tried to defend the HOA's actions, her voice drowned out by chants of "resign." In a desperate move, Karen announced a new election for the HOA board, hoping to appease the crowd. But it was too late. The residents were done with her leadership. Sarah and the Willow Creek Resistance nominated their own candidates, including a neighbor who had been fined for planting a vegetable garden. The election was set for the following month, and Sarah threw herself into campaigning, using her viral platform to rally support. Her videos now had millions of views, and she was invited to speak on a popular podcast about HOA reform. The national attention put even more pressure on the HOA, and Karen's once iron grip began to slip. One night, Sarah's cameras caught a final act of desperation, an HOA contractor attempting to repaint her fence again, this time in a dull gray. Sarah confronted them from her window, filming the entire encounter. The contractor fled, but the footage sealed the HOA's fate. It was shared across every major platform, with captions calling for the HOA's dissolution. As the election approached, Sarah felt a mix of exhaustion and hope. The fight had taken over her life, but it had also united her community and inspired others to stand up. The pink fence, once a symbol of violation, had become a beacon of resistance. The election day arrived, and Willow Creek was alive with anticipation. Sarah and the Willow Creek Resistance had campaigned tirelessly, knocking on doors, hosting meetings, and sharing their platform online. The viral pink fence saga had drawn national attention, and news vans parked outside the community center as residents cast their votes. Sarah's lawsuit was still pending, but Mark was optimistic, citing the overwhelming public support and the HOA's documented missteps. When the votes were tallied, the results were a landslide. Every resistance-backed candidate won a seat on the new HOA board, and Karen was ousted as president. The crowd erupted in cheers as the results were announced, and Sarah felt a weight lift from her shoulders. The new board's first act was to repeal the vague bylaws that had allowed the HOA's overreach, replacing them with clear, resident-friendly rules. They also issued a formal apology to Sarah and offered to pay for repainting her fence in any color she chose. Sarah picked a soft sage green, a color that matched her garden and soothed her soul. The contractor who painted it was local, unaffiliated with the HOA, and Sarah watched with satisfaction as the pink disappeared under smooth, even strokes. Her lawsuit moved forward, and the court ruled in her favor, awarding her damages for the fence and emotional distress. The HOA, now under new leadership, didn't contest the ruling, eager to distance itself from Karen's legacy. Sarah used part of the settlement to install a better security system, ensuring she'd never be caught off guard again. Her videos continued to inspire, and she started a blog to share tips on fighting HOA overreach, turning her experience into a resource for others. The Willow Creek Resistance evolved into a neighborhood watch group, ensuring the new HOA stayed accountable. Sarah's pink fence became a local legend, with tourists snapping photos and residents jokingly calling it the fence that took down an HOA. Karen moved away shortly after the election, unable to face the community she'd once controlled. Sarah, meanwhile, found peace in her home again, her garden thriving and her daughter playing happily in the backyard. The fight had been grueling, but it had united a community and sparked a movement. As Sarah looked at her newly painted fence, she smiled, knowing she'd turned an act of violation into a victory for justice. If you enjoyed this wild HOA saga, smash that like button, subscribe, and share your own HOA horror stories in the comments. Hit the bell so you never miss an update, and let's keep exposing the drama together.